What up, y'all? What's going on? It's time for Game Time Audible. I am your boy Eric Buckner, COO of the Nighthawk Network, and of course, I'm being joined as always by the Sports Guru himself, Hugh Lee. What's going on, Hugh?
What's good, man? You already know what time it is, man.
Yeah. Ready to talk some sports with the people today. Hopefully, everybody is doing well, keeping warm. A lot of places out here in the country right now, definitely colder than it was a couple days ago. The weather is just all jacked up, man.
We had that beautiful snow out there, man. I wasn't too happy about it. I still threw a little bit of chocolate in
Right? Well, none of you that stuff at all.
the
On April, that's bull.
cup.
They had to cancel the game last night because it's snowing and whatnot.
Detroit bipolar, man, when it comes to the weather.
Facts. But anyway, y'all, we're gonna talk some sports tonight. We're gonna talk a little bit of everything. Here's the deal: we're gonna do it a little different tonight. We don't have no set topics we're gonna talk about per se, but we got set things we're gonna talk about per se. And if you want to jump in there and add some of y'all stuff, some of the things you like to talk about sports wise, by all means do so. We will call that audible and go on into what y'all got to talk about, okay? So it's all love. So anyway, like I said, we about to go on ahead, start the commercial break off. When we come back, we're gonna get into it. My man Hugh gonna go first, and we'll go from there. This is Game Time Audible. That's Hugh Lee, the sports guru. I'm that boy E Beezy. We'll be back after these fine commercial messages from the people here at the Nighthawk Network. Bingo!
Nighthawk Network presents Pastor Sean Love. Pastor Sean Love, devoted father and husband, a residing pastor at the River Rouge Bible Assembly in River Rouge, Michigan. Join him as he gives us messages from God's Word, Bible study, and encouragement. You can find him on YouTube under Sean Love. What's up, everybody? Eric Buckner here. You know Miss EB, Young Easy, Eric Buck, all that good stuff. Anyway, I'm here to kick it with y'all about this little podcast I've been doing. I talk trending topics. I talk about the stuff we as people need to talk about. I talk about some things actually that people kind of want to shy away from, because we got to have these discussions, folks. That's how we get better. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, hold on. Yeah, so anyway, I do it Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. You can check it out on Facebook, on YouTube. It's a good show. I say get into it. Yeah, you want to know the name of the show? You said, hold on. Hey, you, get off my lawn. Yeah, anyway, that's the name of the show, by the way. Get off my lawn. Check it out, Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Let me go handle this.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Behind the Blue Curtain, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Unscripted talk on police reform and race relations.
And now, Behind the Blue Curtain's law enforcement liaison, retired 32-year Chicago police veteran, homicide detective, former commander, sergeant, grant writer, lecturer, and adjunct professor, Joseph J. Mosley.
Behind the Blue Curtain's minister of common sense, former 12-year Fort Worth police officer, educator, voice of reason, and unapologetic practitioner of sound judgment, the young scholar, LaRonda Young.
Behind the Blue Curtain's co-host, fact checker, and investigative journalist, Isidoro Rodriguez.
All right, we are back. It is Game Time Audible. That is Hugh Lee, the sports guru. I'm your boy, Eric Buckner. We are ready to talk sports this evening, y'all. So let's get into it. What you got there, Hugh? What we starting out with, man?
And I want to get into a little bit of that NBA. Yay. Because, it's that time of year, man, where things starting to heat up, man. I'm definitely liking how that's looking right now. Teams basically jockeying, getting ready for the playoffs. It seems like yesterday that they just started, man, because you know the season started so late. But man, it's been a really interesting season so far, so good. So man, I definitely been enjoying it, and I know we talk a lot about what's going on. Big ups to your boy too, Steph
Man,
Curry.
time out. What's with all the tones, Hugh? What's going on? You sound
Man,
like
it's been
you're over there, man.
been a lot of stuff happening, man. I've been just kind of looking in. It ain't really been nothing major, like no breaking news, but yeah, it's been a little stuff going on, man.
If you don't
Mainly
hear
one.
that vibrate, we trying to do a show here, bro. Oh, with
You already know one of the things they was talking about. AD definitely will be playing tonight, so looking forward to that because they definitely need to get a little better in their rankings, man. I still feel like they'll be there. I don't think that they're going to clinch the division or anything like that in the West, but they'll still be one of them teams, man. I think when they're healthy, they'll be definitely one that'll go to the finals. So,
okay, here's the thing, Hugh. I think we got a bit of a conspiracy going on in the NBA right now.
oh,
Think,
absolutely,
think about it. A lot of the major players on some of these teams, for whatever reason, just so happen to be injured right now. On the Nets, we got Harden, we got your boy KD,
KD.
back and forth off the injury list. Over there,
Yeah,
the Lakers, it seemed like LeBron and AD been hurt forever. And you know LeBron ain't never been out this long like that. His age and all of that aside, you got the Clippers going back and forth with Paul George every so often. I mean, it just seems like all the major teams in the league, for whatever reason, they major superstars are out right now. They need some type of rest, injuries. Is it bad conditioning or is this some type of game? Remember, y'all, the Olympics is coming up in July. And a lot of these players that I'm talking about, they are more likely going to be on that Olympic roster. So I'm wondering if they are using this time to heal from their injuries and their COVID situations and whatnot to rest up for the Olympics because they're not taking this particular season, being that it's still not a full season, as serious. What you think, Hugh?
I'm loving that. I like how you slid that in too, man, because you know we've been talking about that. It's been some type of conspiracy, aka a joke. I call it the a la San Antonio situation with Greg Popovich. I've noticed a lot of guys been hurt. Like James Harden came back, wasn't even a game. He was right back out. Same thing with KD. He came in, had like a little ankle tweak. And I think that it's not really major injuries. I just think they'll get like a tweaked ankle or something to happen. And they like, no, we don't want you to get hurt. We don't want to have it to where you're playing like how when he was in Golden State and got hurt at the wrong time when they needed him. We're going to have all these guys fresh when it comes to playoffs. They're jockeying for position, but I don't really think that they're really interested in getting a number one seed or anything like that, you know, because a lot of them teams with their players all clicking and healthy, like the Nets or the Lakers, it could be definitely them in the finals if they once they get all together and they click and they're healthy. And that's all they need. I think they need somewhat a little bit of chemistry with the Nets because they haven't played together long, but I think LA will be just fine. But a lot of them doing that, and you know, man, and that's the main reason. One is because they want to still play in the Olympics and be fresh. And then we know a lot of them guys trying to get ready for the playoffs, man, and try to be fresh in the playoffs because I think they did that recently again with San Antonio when they was resting players and got fined again. So I'm surprised other teams are not getting fined because why are you going after San Antonio so hard, which we've seen it, and it was basically a pattern with them, but you starting to look at it and they're starting to get a little suspect in the league too. I mean, because come on now, San Antonio ain't the only team that's doing it. Don't, you know, call the teacup black or throw a stone and then hide your hand because clearly the Lakers are doing it. The Nets are doing it. The Clippers are doing it. You see the teams is doing it. Most of them who have rosters who know that they're going to make it in the playoffs, they're trying to rest their players as much as possible right now.
Right. And I think that is part of what it is. Now, of course, COVID hasn't been such a bad situation in terms of the NBA, but in regards to some of the other sports we talk about, yeah, that's still very much a problem. But remember, y'all, pretty much after this weekend, any person in the United States will be eligible to get the vaccine that is 18 or older in all 50 states. So that being said, that includes anybody on any of these rosters. So I'm wondering if they are going to start taking these things up so that as we get closer to the playoffs, we're going to have people be out because they are going to have side effects from the second dose, or if it, they reinstate the Johnson and Johnson the first dose, and they'll have to take that into consideration.
It's about to get crazy too, man, because we were talking about that when I was coming home today. There, it's going to be enforced hard too, man. In the sports industry, the job industries, it's just going to get hard, man, because they're going to have it like this. They can't afford for people to constantly get sick and be out. So they're going to say one thing only. You either get that shot, get the vaccine, or you don't have a job anymore. They're going to put people in corners. And I feel like it's going to be for the sake of basically for the sports, because they don't want their athletes constantly out injured. And then the COVID hit too, so you can't win. But they're going to enforce that pretty soon, man. I think right now they're just being delicate about it in the NBA and the NFL, NHL, MLB. They're like, you don't have to take it. But it's going to be a point where they say, take it or else.
Right, because I think at this point, what it boils down to, especially when you start to consider the NCAA as well, it's like, okay, well, yeah, we're probably not going to honor your scholarship if you don't take this vaccine, because in the end, hold on, man, hold on. What you doing? What you doing, man?
Oh, I had to floss my fantasy football rings, man.
See, here
Back to back, reigning, defending World Fantasy Football League champs is in the building.
You see this guy, y'all, acting up, showing his fantasy football rings. Man, we ain't talking about that right now. We're talking about the real athletes, the people that get millions and millions to do this. Focus, brother, focus.
Don't be jealous, man. Look at that, man. Look at that, man. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
I ain't been a champ since 2012. I am. But that's all right. We gonna probably have our own league, y'all. Stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. We definitely gonna have to do our fantasy league.
Yep, we're trying to set it up where y'all get the belt, the ring, the whole shebang bang, the nice little trophy. But yeah, we'll talk about it later on when we get to season 2. But okay, look, here's the thing. Like I said, it's too much money being missed on. Y'all already know cash considerations definitely have to come into play in these things. All right, hold on, y'all. We got somebody commenting. Here we go. Good evening, brothers. H2 in the Smurfing building. Well, what up, H2?
Going on, H-Dub.
What's good?
Good.
One of our favorites here on the show, Helena Hologram, a.k.a. Derek Smith. Our peoples in the Nighthawk Network. We appreciate you, H2.
Much appreciate you.
Yep. So, yeah, nonetheless, y'all, the thing is cash rules, okay? In the end, they got these partial crowds making partial money. These owners ain't liking that, y'all. I understand they billionaires, but they want to get that profit, okay? They want to get that money. Now, once they start opening stuff up on that end where you can have more people in the crowd, they definitely got to have their athletes vaccinated so they're not getting their customers sick, because we don't want to risk no lawsuits based upon that. So that is why we're going to get put in those positions, especially when you consider, okay, school more or less is out now. They still doing the spring sports or whatever. But in the same token, by the time September gets here and the real sports, the ones that make the real money for most of these schools, the football and the basketball, you better believe that option is going to be put out there. I need you to get vaccinated so you can come on and play, and we can go ahead and open up the crowd so we can make this real money.
Those are the ones that's really the most impacted too, man, when it comes to things right now.
You say, I'm going to have a fantasy league. Okay, I'm kind of scared. Are we talking the same thing, H2? Are you clowning? Her fantasy might be a little different than what we're talking about. H2 a bit of a jokester at times, Zinga, what's going on? Red Girl, how are you guys? We talking sports. Jump on in here. So here's the thing. The money, man. That is why things going to have to change. Right now, you got at least half of the country with at least one dose of the vaccine. The other half is probably the half that ain't really trying to do that. Okay? So remember, everything about to be opened up for everybody who's grown in these next 3 to 6 weeks. I think that'll determine how we move from that point forward. Most of the rest of these people ain't trying to take the vaccine, and that affects sports in that way. That's going to be a problem, y'all.
I think they hit.
Truly, what's going on, True? Everything good with you today? I meant to check on you. But anyway, yeah. So that's part of what's going on in the NBA. The other thing is we got some good games going, Hugh. It's
Man,
been
it's
some.
been some good games, man. Games getting chippy early too, man. I was looking at that Phoenix game, man. Two powerhouse teams. They lead 76ers lead the East, and then the Phoenix Suns lead the West. It was more like a bragging right game, but then I still feel like it got chippy because they want to jockey to see who's the best. That's what it's all about. Who's the alpha male of the league? A lot of the people think it's the East, which I doubt, and a lot of the people, the majority of the people think it's the West. They got the more powerhouse teams. I think the East is need to catch up right now, but I definitely looking forward to that game and seeing what the end result's going to be because I still feel like right now I like Phoenix, but you got to beat Utah to be the best in that division right now. They don't get them enough respect.
And I would say, with the exception of probably the Clippers and the Lakers, a lot of these teams in the West, they are kind of on the younger side in terms of they have a lot of very talented individuals that happen to be on that better side of their 20s. So I think that comes into play a lot, particularly later on in the season. As you know, the older teams that had the older players, they tend to run out of gas or start to rest those folks. Okay, H2 says, do you feel sports have been affected by the pandemic? Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. H2O.
No,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why you feel that way, Hugh?
I think because a lot of the teams, man, haven't really been doing as well as we thought they would. We've seen it be affected in college sports, man. We've seen it from like the basketball with the Michigan Wolverines being out for 2 weeks, but then they still put together a hell of an effort at the end of the season. We seen how Gonzaga stayed healthy, but all the other teams in college was, kind of out for the pandemic reasons. I think that's why Baylor lost the games they did, but in the end, they prospered and then they were the best team. But everybody, even football, man, it was like a lot of key individuals were missing from, the pandemic and being out with the coronavirus, man. It really got out of hand once the NBA took away the bubble. And I just felt like the NFL really didn't care. They wanted to kind of have their own money and make their own revenue stream like they always have been. But yeah, it's been really affected. Remember to the point last season in baseball, they got so bad, even they were talking about shutting it down. The commissioner said, man, if this keep happening, we're going to have to shut it down. I didn't think it was a good idea, which I thought, have you heard of what they were saying they were going to do at first in major leagues? I thought it was an awesome idea. They were going to have the grapefruit leagues, and that's where they were going to play all their games from. They were going to have the games in, like Florida, and they were going to have other ones like in Arizona to get that league going. But I just think the players was against it. Most of them are divas. They didn't want to do that. They still wanted to travel, see their family, and do things like it's regular and live their regular lives. But it's not, and that's what they got to understand. You got to put your health and everybody else's health first, even your family. Because if you're going out and you're going through these airports and traveling and stuff, man, you can get your whole family sick. And then how would you feel? Even possibly a death in the family, because people play with this, like it's a joke, man. But it's out here, and it's until we start taking care of ourselves and do what we have to do, it's going to still be there, and it's going to still be a threat to this country.
Right. Now, see, let me answer this question. The level of play has changed because of the pandemic. In certain sports, yes, in other sports, not as much. For example, I would say in Major League Baseball, there is no real change this particular season in regards to the level of play. Now, last year, yeah, the pandemic definitely affected what went on, especially early on in the season when, it seemed like every other game people was losing games and postponing and canceling games. That has not gone on nearly as much this particular year in MLB. So because of that, I think we're getting some very good play there, at least early on in the season. In terms of the NBA, I could kind of argue that point H2 because particularly early on in the season, it was not a lot of good defense being played. You could tell that conditioning was definitely an issue. They tended not to practice as much because they did not want to put the players in situations where they were more than likely to give each other COVID or be around people that had COVID, what have you. So, yeah, I would argue that. In terms of the NHL, the way it's set up is actually a good model that people might want to consider. As we can remember, the way they're set up this year, pretty much teams in their own division are only playing those teams in the division, and there's not really no extra games. And of course, all the Canadian teams are just playing the Canadian teams. Now, what the interesting thing will be when we get to the point where we get to the playoffs, more than likely the NHL will have some type of bubble situation, at least from the Canada side, because in the end, whoever wins the Canada part of the league, they're going to have a major play in the playoffs. It's almost like they're going to get a couple buys, you know what I'm saying, in terms of who comes out of that. But also, because Canada's still, in terms of the United States, like, we're not messing with y'all, man. Y'all not dealing with COVID right. Remember, a lot of provinces in Canada right now, and y'all can relate to this here on the Bigo, they are on lockdown right now. They ain't like us where we kind of got certain things not opened as much. Some of those places, they on like, okay, essential businesses only, stay your butt in the house, that type of lockdown in Canada. So that definitely going to affect the NHL, most definitely.
Yeah, because it's a Canada team right now in MLB, which it was last year. Are they still playing in Tampa Bay, like sharing their facility?
That's correct. The only team that's in MLB that is a Canadian team, of course, Toronto Blue Jays, they're playing in Tampa Bay right now because the Canadian officials are not allowing them to play in Canada. They don't even want to risk them bringing COVID back to Canada with them. So, for all intents and purposes, they are the Tampa Bay Blue Jays. And keep in mind, they are second in the league right now, so it's not affecting them as much. It might actually be helping them because consider the temperatures here of late. Right now in Toronto, my friends here can tell you it's very cold. It's even colder than it is in Detroit. They're probably missing a few games. So yeah, I think it really depends on sport to sport. Now, in terms of college sports, most definitely the pandemic has affected the level of play, and damn near every sport, the spring and the fall sports. So yeah, I definitely would make that argument. H2. All right, what we got going, Hugh?
Just about to check in on the score in the NBA and see what was going on right now. Because it was a really tough one. With I definitely want to see the game with Philly and Phoenix because that was a really hard fought game. Phoenix is up right now. Look like they might be able to pull it off. It's like less than a minute, 59.8 seconds left. They up 109, 103. So yeah, it look like they're going to take that one.
Okay, I'm definitely encouraged in the NBA by the fact that it seems like the defense is starting to finally come back to play. Another thing that I was really not happy with early on in the season, like some of these crazy ass scores, the 140s, the 120s, and all that. It seemed like we got a lot less of that going on these last few weeks. Teams have finally figured out how to play defense again.
Because most of them, man, was just shooting threes, chugging threes, make it or not, man. They could care less.
Mm-hmm.
This has been ferocious, man. And one team I still feel like been playing exceptional has been Philly, man. But I'm really surprised that they possibly might lose this game. But at the same time, you can't win them all. But it's close now, man. My phone just refreshed. They're up 3, the Suns, and it's like 5 seconds left, so they still have a chance.
Yep. So, like I said, that's a good game. We got another good game coming tonight as well. We got the Trailblazers playing the Nuggets, I believe it is. That should be a pretty good game tonight. At the, I believe that's the 10:30 game. Hugh, correct me if I'm wrong, sir.
That's the 10 o'clock game.
Okay. Yep. And again, I point out to last season in the bubble when they had the playoff series between the Trailblazers and the Nuggets. That was a very good series that went on. Unfortunately, the main player in that particular series not playing right now due to injury, that being Jamal Murray, who is probably out for the season, unfortunately. So that's a very big blow to Denver, a team that was looking to make some major push in the playoffs this year. And that's why they made the deals they made at the trade deadline. But unfortunately, because of what happened to Murray, it's all for naught.
Yeah, man, that's sad too, man, because them getting JaVale McGee and getting Aaron Gordon, man, I thought that was really going to make them compete with anybody. I feel like in the West, they could compete with the Clippers, the Lakers, whoever. It didn't matter, man. I felt like they were going to be talked about right along with everyone else. Jamal Murray getting hurt, don't want to go and pump the brakes a little bit because that's an extra 20, damn near 30 points a night you're going to miss. And he's really going to be missed this season. And who say he's going to be the same next season?
Okay, H2 got another question for us. So do you think Canada's going to send a team to the Olympics? Here's the thing, H2. I found out in regards to the Olympics, the way they're going to set that up for the most part, with of course the exception of like the NBA players and whatnot, they're going to have most of the athletes come to Japan early after they, of course, quarantine for a time. So before there's any games that really go on, and as far as Japan goes, all the athletes are going to quarantine for a certain period of time and be constantly tested for COVID. So once they do that, then they will actually start the playing of the games. So because they're having those type of protocols, I think more countries are more than likely to send their athletes to Tokyo. Now, granted, some of the countries are not happy with the fact that none of their other people will be allowed to come to the games. But again, out a couple weeks ago, the Japanese, they still, for the most part, are not with them having the games at all. But because the Japanese government has put in the type of money they have in throwing the games and have already taken a loss because they've had to postpone it a couple times now, they are dead set and determined to have these games. So that is what that's about.
Man, they can care less right now. They like, man, we just want to get these games together. We want to do what we have to do, because we invested into the games and we don't want to lose out on our money and the billions we put into the games. But that's a smart thing to do, man. Have them come over and quarantine and then have them perform. The sad part is you're not going to have the crowds like you used to, but it's for the best. I'm just hoping that it'd be a good turnout. And I hope that they have it to the point where they can engineer it and they can execute well to where we get less people getting sick and everything like that happening. Just basically want them to play smart and do the right thing by the players and the athletes, man, because it's going to be really rough, man. But a lot of those physical sports is where it's going to be tricky at. You're going to have contact in the basketball, and it's going to be certain things that where you have to compete and you are going to be one-to-one with a player, and the aggressiveness into the sports. That's where a lot of that stuff comes from, man, that contact, man. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out because we're going to get people sick in there, man, But how big is that going to be when, like, some of the best players from the world get infected or get to the point where they have, the coronavirus or if they get COVID, man, how that's going to impact the Olympics, man. You talk about gold, silver, and, bronze medals, man. It could easily be like one or two athletes can slip you down from the gold to the bronze. So, yeah, I want to see how this plays out.
Right, because keep in mind, particularly in the major Olympic sports, if they have a COVID outbreak, say in the part of the facility where all the track and field people train, for example, or the swimmers or what have you, and that basically affects the swimming events to where, okay, only certain athletes are available, and they are the ones who end up winning the medals, so that the legitimacy of those particular events are in question. Because in the end, yeah, I want a gold medal, but you want it against who? Does it really count as much? Is it going to be looked at tainted or asterisk? Remember, there were those years where the Olympics had several major people not show up. The Moscow games where a lot of us didn't show up. The games after the ones in LA where the Russians didn't show up. So, those medals are seen as different than the ones where everybody fully participated. So that's definitely going to be something to look at in regards to that.
Yeah, because, it's nothing worse than having a tainted medal right now, man. Lord forbid in track and field, we looking at that on TV on our medal drop because the number one team with the gold medal be Finland.
Mm-hmm. Now,
track and field.
Another thing is, in terms of the NBA, is it me, Hugh, or the people that consider themselves three-point shooters? It's like they're in competition with each other right now to see how far out can I shoot these boys and consistently make them.
It seems like it's always been a competition with Dame Dollar and Steph Curry, man. But right now, a lot of them, even Trae Young, shooting them from real deep, man. These guys, man, They trying to shoot from the other end of the gym now, man, just to get their point across on how good of a marksman they are when it comes to shooting. But they need to get to the game, man, because when you shoot those, it looks good when you make it, but when you don't make it, man, that's not helping you or the team. Right
Right.
now, how Curry's been, though, I wouldn't complain if he shoot that mug from the other part of the gym, in the bleachers, because, man, this man's been on the tear. I don't even think he's human right now.
Right, because like I said, there are those 3 or 4 players that will hit them consistently from deep. You see them practice them in practice. But other players, they basically put that out there as in, okay, I could try to hit this. I might do it. And it throws off everything because think about it. You shoot from 30, 40 feet. Meanwhile, you miss terribly. You get the rebound. And you can basically start it off the fast break. And that's part of why the defenses and the numbers in terms of that is so crazy. Because in the end, it's this one shot and we up and down the floor that don't necessarily make for good basketball right now.
Not at all. I feel you, man. I just want them to get back to just playing the game and back to the basics. It's good to shoot threes every now and then. It's just entertainment to the game. But when you focus and pinpoint your game around just shooting threes all game, it just basically takes away from the game. And I don't want to see it when it's played like that. They
Right.
don't even respect the big man in the sport anyway right now, like the center. So, why have a center under there trying to grab rebounds when you shooting threes all day?
Right, because of course now that's going to be a prerequisite for your big man. Your big man got to be able to shoot a few threes here and there to keep it honest. But meanwhile, while you got him out shooting threes, you missing out on his rebound potential or the way
Absolutely.
he can defend the basket because he way out there with everybody else.
Joel Embiid, for instance, man, he have no business, and I love his game. I think he can shoot well from the three. You have no business being there. Anybody who's 7 feet has no business being out there trying to shoot threes. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Stay under there, grab them rebounds, and get those perimeter baskets. Guys don't even want to play with those fundamentals anymore. It makes the game to the point where it's pedestrian.
Right, because it's crazy. I mean, like for example, y'all know I have my little hoop here at the house. I mean, basically it's set up as if I was a 7-footer, so to speak. If you're that damn close to the basket, to where if you get anywhere close to the basket, you're probably going to score. Why would you not take more advantage of that? Particularly if you are the biggest person on the court at that moment, and
Absolutely.
very little could be done to stop you. Okay, H2 is saying look back at the '84 Olympics when they began to question Evelyn Asper's gold medal because Maria Gore was not exactly. And there were
Mhm.
several instances like that. Decker Sweeney, when she ran the marathon, I believe the best person that was running the marathon, she was not available. There are several examples of that. And in Moscow was the same thing because, a lot of the bigger countries chose not to attend the Moscow Olympics for whatever reason at that time. So yeah, that definitely is going to come into play in some of these events. I'm pretty sure because it's
Yeah,
always 4 or 5 major countries that are major players in the Olympics, particularly the summer one. You know who they are: United States, obviously, Canada, of course, Russia, China, and Japan. They, for the most part, will dictate who wins, who don't win, who gets bronze, silver, what have you, in most of the major sports in the Olympics.
so we just hoping that for the best of all of our interests, that they do a good job at keeping the players safe. And that's what it is right now because we've always talked about how COVID impacted all the sports, man. At one point, we wasn't watching anything. We were seeing reruns from Super Bowls and, NBA finals and
I didn't mind
MLB.
that so much. I really didn't.
It was cool. I definitely don't lie. But when you looking for a fresh start and you just basically looking for live competition, that's what I think it started to ache. I was a little irked by it for a while. Then they slowly but surely start bringing things back. Because at first, remember, we think the NBA was coming back at first last year. I was like, damn. I was like, is this the end for the NBA? How they gonna do it? Is they gonna reset it back in October? But just glad that they brought it back the way they did. I don't think a lot of the players are fond of the play and get in type of situation. The players who were close to making the playoffs, I don't think they was too fond of that. But yeah, man, still, I think that was good entertainment. It was more like a wild card for basketball, and it was cool, man, seeing it in a bubble when played in Orlando because it kind of reminds you of rec league almost.
Exactly. Yeah, what's going on, Amazon Ian and Mike V? Thank you for checking in on Bigo. Okay, here's the thing, y'all. We're gonna revisit the NBA a little bit later in the show because we want to talk about something in regards to what happened yesterday. Y'all know where we're going. But before we do that, here's the question in regards to the Olympics, because I did want to get into the Olympics a little bit more. Here's the thing, y'all. You know the Olympics is coming, but then there's always that part of you that really respects the fact that, wow, these athletes, they didn't train all their lives. I wish I could have did that. So when we get back from this quick commercial break, here's the question, y'all. If you could be an Olympic athlete, what sport would you have wanted to do in the Olympics? That is the question. If you could be an Olympic athlete, what sport would you have liked to do in the Olympics? We will have that answer for you between this man and me and anybody else out here when we return after these short messages. This is the Nighthawk Network's show known as Gametime Audible, y'all. We will be back. Stand by.
Set your place on fire. Let's get higher. I'm gonna set your place on fire. Let's get higher. I'm gonna set your place on fire. Let's get higher. I'm gonna set your place on fire. Let's get higher. I'm gonna set your place on fire. Let's get higher.
The views and or opinions expressed here on Gametime Audible is that of the host and or guests, and does not necessarily reflect those of the Nighthawk Network or its affiliates. Viewer and listening discretion is advised. All right, y'all, what's going on? We are back with Gametime Audible. I am your host, Eric Buckner, and that's the other host right there, that guy with the beard. Yeah, y'all know y'all like that stuff. That is Hugh Lee. And we are here to talk to y'all about sports right now. We are getting to this Olympic discussion. Hello, Tracy Nature. The question we are asking right now in terms of the show, if you could have been an Olympic athlete, what sport would you have liked to have been in the Olympics? And why? So, okay, Helena is asking the question. Who would y'all want to answer, Derek or Helena, to answer the question? I, being a knucklehead I am, said, yeah, let them both they be.
I want to hear both their opinions on that.
Please stop setting people's face on fire. You know you like that cut edge too. That's that buck beat. You gotta like the beats, man. But yeah, so anybody out here in the Bigo world, anybody out here on the Tube or the Facebook, the question is that if you could have been an Olympic athlete, what Olympic sport would you have participated in? I will ask my guy Hugh first. What you got, Hugh?
Man, I would definitely love to get that U.S. Olympic gold medal playing basketball, man. I know I wouldn't be able to make it realistically, man. I'm 5'7", so you don't see no guys my height playing in the Olympics. But you know, it's all good, though, man. I just feel like, man, it's a possibility, man.
Y'all know some of them lesser countries, all they got is 5'7". They got the best players in the country, and they just happen to be that short. They don't have it like that. So yeah, you might be able to make a team in Angola or Snookersville or whatever small country, because in the end may only be 10 people in the whole damn country even know how to play basketball.
Because think about it, man.
Y'all might mess around
James, and the best players in the world, man. Nobody can never take that from you, man. Playing with like the likes of, the late great Kobe Bryant. You got LeBron James. Former guys like D Wade, and new guys like Booker. You still got Chris Paul, man, Dame Dollar, Steph Curry. There's so many down the line. Kevin Garnett, Kevin Durant. Let me rephrase that. I just really feel like that's a cool feeling, man. I definitely would love to have that feeling playing with the best NBA players in the world. Not only that, but being one of the best of them, man. That's what you got to realize for the people who answer these questions. Not only would you be playing the likes of some of the guys who are your heroes or, growing up to be so many people role models like the Michael Jordans and, the guys from the first Olympic team, but to actually have that opportunity to play with the best in the world, and not only that, but win a gold medal and have them as your teammates, man. And you being one of those guys who's one of the greats. Most of them guys are in the Hall of Fame right now for that first, Olympic team, which is well deserved.
Understood. Okay, Derek is checking in. Derek said Derek would have played volleyball because I played competitive volleyball for 20 years. And yes, it's definitely one of the better sports. But again, Derek, how tall are you? And your average team with the good Olympic volleyball team, they got those players that basically, okay, you was kind of awkward for basketball, but you're pretty damn tall. You got some big ass hands. You play volleyball, so they got some of them players that 6'8", 6'9" that play volleyball and hit that boy so hard that they'll leave lumps on your head when it hit over the net. Okay, Helena will play softball. I played and coached softball, which makes sense. Now, here's the thing. Speaking of softball, shout out to the team. I do believe they are in Arkansas. I believe Arkansas is the team. No, Alabama. Alabama was the team. It was Arkansas, I think. They basically won 30 straight games in the NCAA, which was like a record. 30 straight games. As in they were undefeated up until last night when they lost. So they are now the best team in softball in the NCAA. 31. You can check that out for me since we got the research department here. I believe it's either Arkansas or Alabama. But yeah, they were on an undefeated streak that was broken last night. So shout out to those ladies. And it took them to go to overtime to lose. So yeah, it was I actually saw some of that game last night. It was a pretty good game. Guy Mahaji, how are you, sweetie? Checking in from the Vigo streets. Appreciate you. We are talking sports tonight. Okay, H2 said 5'11". I would have been a setter. Yeah, I get that. So usually the taller people they put in front of the net. So, when they come up there and they'd be like, get that mess out my face.
Yeah, man, that's a competitive sport, man. I remember we had to play it to get a grade in high school, man. It was fun, though, man. That's one thing I could say. It's something I don't play on the regular, but playing it at that time, I enjoyed it. Definitely because I didn't want to get a bad grade neither, but all in all, it was pretty cool to play.
Right. Now, keep in mind, since I was a collegiate person, one of the electives that you could take in terms of your electives was a sports-based elective. So several of my electives that I took were sports-based. So in college, I actually played softball in terms of a class. I played volleyball. I played badminton. I played tennis. I played there was not baseball. It was something similar. Basically, it was baseball, but they called it a slightly different class. But
yeah, was it?
Baseball, some like brown ball theory or something like that. But in essence, we was playing baseball. So yeah, I played all those things. So yeah, they were fun, and some of them I was better at than others. But that being said, I would have to narrow it down to two sports I would do. Either I would do tennis, because tennis is an Olympic sport, one that does not get quite as much attention as it could because of some of the other sports. But keep in mind the thing about tennis is most of all the major athletes that play on the tennis tour do also play in the Olympics. So it's very competitive in that you're playing the best of the best. So yeah, I would definitely want to do that and win a medal in that one because in the end, I'm the best of the best. Granted, I'm not winning the money like I would win on the tour, but you definitely get a big props for that. So either it will be tennis or I would be, of course, on one of the baseball teams because baseball is an Olympic sport, and I liked my baseball. Definitely, more of the southern countries in terms of South America and Cuba and all that, they tend to have the better teams in baseball. Thank you for the gifts, by the way, you guys. I see y'all. Thank you, Niche True, checking in on the Bigo. But yeah, that would be the one I would want to win my medal in baseball.
That was cool to see them win too, man. When Giancarlo Stanton, he just went off, man. In that Olympic war, it wasn't was it the Olympics or no? I think it was the WBC, right? The World Baseball Championship. But that was still cool to see, man. The U.S. win that, man, because for the most part, you got like the Venezuelas and the Costa Ricas and the teams like that, but the Dominican Republic, oh my God, they're usually stacked over there. That's where most of our talent from. You have Pujols and A-Rod on the same team, man. That wasn't fun to see that anyway. But when you got most of your talent coming from there, man, that was actually a fun thing to see. But yeah, the baseball is starting to heat up too, man. I definitely would like to see that more. And for the most part, some of the better players in the U.S. playing. It makes it more interesting to see because for the most part, I really get a little upset. It pisses me off to have the best players in the world and they sit out, man. Then when we lose, they had a dumb look on their face. Like, man, you could have prevented this from playing. You decided not to. Shut up. It's all on y'all because we are the best. So why don't we put our best players out there and represent the country, man, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. Shout out to you, Cody and Felicia. The question right now is if you could have been an Olympic athlete, what sport would you have participated in the Olympics? And why? So we're putting that back out to the book. Shout out to Deidre Long, person I went to high school with. Thank you for checking into the show. Appreciate you. Okay. Again, y'all, we give people a couple minutes on Bigo to answer that question if they choose to. But yeah, like I said, I look at some of the sports in regards to what we do know Olympic-wise. But remember, there's over 120 different sports that are played in the Olympic Games. Some of them are more televised than others. Some of them just not really TV worthy. When you look at, for example, I do believe squash is actually an Olympic sport. For those of you familiar with squash, which is basically kind of like cricket and, the little croquet mallet and all that. Actually, a good sport that they show, and they should show more on the Olympics, water polo. Water polo be lit, bro.
Hey, that seems fun, man.
Especially the way where you basically throw the ball and then y'all can go all underwater and whatnot and just pop up like, I got the ball. Ha ha. Yeah. I really think they should try to concentrate more on some of the lesser sports sometimes. Granted, the way they have the Olympic channel set up now, on the one hand, you could have it to where, okay, you could just watch the main stuff, and that's going to be on the main channel. I believe NBC has the Olympics this year. But then, of course, they'll have some of it on the Olympic NBC channel, MSNBC, NBC Sports channel, so on and so forth. So you'll be able to kind of specialize in terms of certain teams and certain countries and what have you. But in the same token, I really wish they would be like, okay, well, yeah, we know we got basketball going on, but before that, we're going to spotlight this sport here, and this is why. Okay, saying, yes, it is. Yes, they should, and they have to be conditioned to be play water polo. Absolutely, water polo. Now, keep in mind, swimming is something that I did in high school and college, and that is very underrated in terms of not only a sport but an exercise. So to be swimming and then playing water polo in regards to the swimming to where you got to maneuver kind of like soccer, that's a lot. You cannot just be your everyday athlete and do that. So yeah, I definitely see that. And like I said, in terms of some of the sports, you have to really appreciate some of the effort that it takes to play those sports, let alone play them at a high level.
Do they have something like World's Strongest Man competition in the Olympics? They should.
Well, I know they have the weightlifting where they basically see who can lift the most weight and whatnot. So I think that's kind of similar to that in that regard. But no, you're talking about like much like how we would see on ESPN, where okay, here's this big girl. and you take
that
the
would be
ball.
amazing.
Yeah, because some of those things, it'd be like, I know that mess heavy. You crazy for even trying that. And then I remember the last time I watched it, the one guy was going to lift the thing, and it was like, oh, and you just see his leg buckle, and he just like broke his leg right there on the spot because what he was trying to pick up was just way too damn heavy. It was crazy. Dime checking in the building. What's going on, Dimey?
That'd be so aggressive, man. They'd be so intense.
Yeah. So, like I said, I am looking forward to the Olympics this year. You know, I don't know how much of it I'll get to see. At that point, I'll probably be back to work. But, you know, because we got all these different streaming platforms and whatnot and stuff you can record, I'll at least try to check into what I can. Dark Child 069, what's going on? So, yeah, there is that. So, yeah, the question again, y'all, one last time. If you could be in any Olympic sport, what would it be and why? That's what we're talking about on the show right now. Anybody else checking in on the book or YouTube, feel free to go ahead and chime on in regards to your comments or remarks. If not, we will definitely move on with the show. Okay, what you got next up, Hugh?
Oh man, I just seen something happen, man. Trey Young landed awkwardly, man, and they sending him to the locker room. We don't know the extremity of what happened, but yeah, man, it didn't look good the way he landed, man. Hopefully, he'll be okay, get a couple of weeks off. But the way he landed, he might have to take at least an average of 2 to 3 weeks off. So that Atlanta and any chances they were trying to do to get like power position in the playoffs.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think playoff positioning in terms of the NBA ain't quite as important at this point, unless, of course, you're on the bottom trying to get in or maintain that eighth seed. Most of the people that's in the playoffs right now, that's pretty much the people that we're looking at. Remember, I think we got about another 10 or 12 games left before the playoffs. Yeah. So, yeah, at this point, who we got in there pretty much is that. It's just the people near the end and the people trying to jockey for position. But again, remember, home court advantage ain't going to be what it would normally be. Remember, a lot of these teams, yeah, they have the ability to have people in the stands, but not nearly anything close to capacity. That's why, for example, say you are San Antonio that's set up to be in the playoffs right now. Because Texas is wide open, you'll have the opportunity to have a full house if you so choose, or the Dallas Mavericks of the world when you have your playoffs. So, yeah, you may have a bigger home field advantage than, say, a team that's like from Indiana or Boston, to where they have limitations in regards to how many people can be in the crowd. So home field advantage will actually come into play more so for those teams as opposed to basic team A that's not, allowing people to have those type of numbers coming in. So I don't think, like I said, home field advantage is going to be quite as important. And then, of course, there still has to be that consideration. Do we have bubble for the playoffs? Something I definitely think they should consider.
Man, I think this is a very important too. As I'm looking right now for the Golden State Warriors, man. Right now, I'm seeing Memphis had an 8 seed, then San Antonio at 28-28, and then Golden State at 29-30. Man, we didn't think that they were going to be a top 5 team. At least we thought that if anything, but they'll probably be a 7th or 8th seed. But they're not that many games behind the Dallas Mavericks. They're like 30-26. So if they could get on a 4 or 5 game win streak, man, things could change. But it's still like that at the top of the league too. That's what makes it so interesting, because it's only one game out right now with Utah.
Yep, but at this point, I say in terms of Trey Young, you already know what's probably going to play out. If he misses a couple games, they'll have him come back. If it's an extended injury where it's a couple weeks to a few weeks, his regular season is done. They're going to go ahead and rest him and then have him come back for the playoffs. Because, again, that was one of those people that more than likely would make an Olympic roster this year. So that definitely will be part of the consideration.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, like I said, I'm real to see how all these teams play the injury game at this point, from this point forward in the doggone NBA. But, yeah, like I said, not getting no other feedback from that. So it's on you, Hugh. What is our next topic of discussion?
Man, I want to talk about MLB right now and the better teams in Major League Baseball.
Okay, we can talk some baseball. Now, of course, baseball been a little threw off in terms of the Midwest these last couple of days because it's cold as crap. Not just here in Detroit, but in Minnesota, Cleveland, chilly. I've seen a few of the highlights from those games. People was all bundled up, and so that definitely affects the play when it's cold. Now, granted, early in the season you're used to it being a little chilly at night, but when you're dealing with snow flurries and wind chills and things like that, this late into April, that's definitely going to throw things off.
Yeah, because our game got snowed out last night, man.
And of course, the Tigers played a doubleheader. Clearly, they lost the first one, but I do believe they won the second one, which is
Yeah,
good.
they put that series in the doubleheader.
Yeah, the Tigers looking at it like 7-11, I believe now, so they still don't have the best record. They are definitely tied for the bottom in the Central, but they are definitely playing better baseball than they have these last couple seasons. But they are having those bouts apparently still where the offense don't quite show up that night. So
This
I'm
is weird.
out.
The Kansas City Royals is number one in our division right now.
Okay, that is real odd, but again, it's still early on in the season, so I really don't take a lot of credence into who is on top of any of these divisions right now. I do find it interesting that it does appear that the powers that be, that is in the people that air the games, are starting to take teams like the Tampa Bay Rays and the San Diego Padres more seriously. So you're starting to see a lot of those games be highlighted not only on Baseball Tonight and ESPN, but them actually playing those games. For example, this week's Sunday night matchup is the Padres versus the Dodgers, which I think is going to be a very intriguing game, no matter who is pitching that night or hitting.
Yeah, because that right now San Diego is 10-10 and they're in third place. But they're a lot of games behind. They're like 5 games behind the Dodgers, who right now have the best record in baseball. But like you said, it's still early. But to be 14-4 right now, coming off of the championship, that they had, and winning the championship and winning the World Series, it's pretty interesting to seeing that they're only getting better. They didn't really have to make any power moves, but I feel like getting Trevor Bauer only make that team stronger and bring it back Justin Turner. I thought that was a smart move because at first I thought he was going to walk. I was hearing that Minnesota Twins was interested, and you heard Chicago Cubs and other teams that wanted to get him to basically be a contender. But for him going back to where he knows, and I don't know, he might have took lesser money to be back with the Dodgers. I thought that was a smart move for the team in general to move forward.
Well, see, the way the Dodgers are set up is a little different than most teams in the league because they've been pretty deep, particularly in terms of their position players over the last few years. So, they could kind of spare people. Like, for example, remember they had the Cuban sensation. And what happened to that guy, by the way?
Who, Puig?
Yes.
Man, they saying he's in a league right now. I think it's like in a Mexico league. But yeah, he's like out of baseball right now.
Right. And remember, a few years ago, he was one of the better players, not only on the Dodgers, but in the league themselves. But because they had so many extra outfielders that they could field, and he got to having issues, they basically started playing them, and they saw that he was not necessary. So they went ahead and sent him to the Reds, and he went to the Indians, and so on and so forth. But here's the thing: the Dodgers, like I said, they are very deep in position players. So because of that, they kind of have some room to work with. Remember, Cody Bellinger is out for a time, and even when he was playing early this season, he wasn't looking quite as good as his MVP season of the year ago. So all that being considered, the Dodgers ain't missed a beat. They still have one of the better records in baseball. And I think that's part of why they have, they have depth. And we not even just talking about their major league roster. They got some decent prospects in the AAA that they can bring up at any time and plug into the lineup.
I know those AAA guys licking their chops right now, man, because whenever they let them get to the majors now, they're not making that AAA money. They're making equivalent to like major league money. If they was only making like 20,000, 30,000 down here, as soon as they come up to the majors, they're making like $250,000 to $500,000 now. So when those guys come up, man, they trying to make an impact and they trying to stay in the majors because when you see that money shift, man, and you see the play on that level, a lot of these guys are trying to make it interesting, man. They trying to keep some of them jobs.
Exactly. Okay, H2 checking in. Do you guys think that a lot of athletes are still using steroids? I would say not so much H2, but I do believe there are other performance enhancers that may come into play. Remember, some of these athletes, because they make the millions and millions of dollars they do, they have their own set of people that they deal with, and not just trainers. I'm talking about people that are their dietitians, people that are their entourage, so to speak. And based on those understandings and those setups, there are probably people in their lives that be like, okay, well, you can't take these steroids, but we have this protein shake that has this, this, and this in it that will help boost your metabolism or help your muscle protein growth and what have you. And if you basically broke down the contents of that, some of those things could be deemed illegal, but they are not at this point in time. So they are performance enhancers in that regard. So yeah, I think to that degree, there are definitely athletes that are still doing things that are similar to steroids in those regards. But the actual steroids themselves, maybe not so much. What do you think, Hugh?
I definitely don't think it's a lot of that going on right now from the random testings. But like you said, these athletes are smart, man. They'll get something like a hydroxycrud extreme edition, or they'll get something that they can put into their system to make them a little bit more aggressive, to make them focus more, to make them a little faster, and definitely more aggressive when they're, playing the game. I don't think it's like done like steroids anymore because it's easily detected. But they're trying to get stuff like smoke and mirror things that can slide through the cracks, or to get them the opportunity where they can still play at a high level without getting deemed on having any steroids or bad substances, in their body. Because when you got those enhanced legal enhancements and like, substances in your body, they can track those, man. But there are going to always be people who can slide between the tracks or push it to the limits to where they'll be able to get away with it for so long until they say, okay, you can't use this hydroxycut extreme edition because it has this, and that in it. So we're not going to let you use it, because if you do, we're going to ban you out of the league. And a lot of those guys, they hit them hard. If you do it one time, I think how many games they suspend you? Like 60 games.
I think
And
it's
if it again, it's like 180 games. So man, those guys don't want to get caught up doing that when they know that there's millions of dollars on the line. But a lot of them still have substances and different things that they could use. But I don't still think that it's down flat out steroids.
Yeah, and like I said, so they're using stuff that hasn't been banned as of yet. I do believe so. So like I said, don't quote me on that. I don't have no information in regards to that for certain. But my guess is, yeah, there are things that they are using that are performance enhancers in that regard. Remember, when we talk Olympics, those things usually come into play at some point too. There's usually that one country that came up with something. Yeah, it's the yak milk, but we found out the yak milk is full of these things that make your muscles grow like Bane all of a sudden, and that's why that from Fuku is winning the gold medals in soccer at that point, or what have you. H2 is saying I believe that too. I agree. So yeah, that is that. But in terms of this week in baseball, I didn't see anything that stood out per se. In regards to thing, there is a pitcher I do believe, I won't recall his name, but he basically has struck out 33 people, have yet to walk anybody. That is a major league record, and I find that real crazy that after over 150 plus years of baseball, we're still breaking records that have never been set before.
I still been looking at some of the things too in the baseball, how when some of the players match up with the best pitchers, man, and how that started to get a lot of steam too, man. I don't know why. I guess because the pitchers either gonna one up you or you're gonna one up the pitchers. But I've still been seeing a lot of guys dogging it out. Besides the Nick Castellanos one, I think he dogged it out one time when he hit the ball. He kind of looked at his home run and kind of skipped the bases, and he did that, and I know it was intentional. I don't think that their teams got along in the first place, which was the Cardinals, the Cincinnati Reds, and they always had issues in the past. And then it came them and the Brewers. But when you do stuff like that, man, it gets interesting because he hit it off a really good pitcher that was on their team too. I forgot who it was. I don't believe it was Wainwright, but it seems like that's starting to get more heated. You'll see a good pitcher strike somebody out there, kind of strut it, do a little extra, and you're seeing the same thing with the hitters too, man. And that's been making for good baseball as well. because I remember they didn't like Tim Anderson doing some of the things he do with like some of the bat flips and how they look at him like he was arrogant. But he said, man, baseball's not fun anymore. When you hit the ball, a lot of times you want to see your ball go out. I don't try to dog it or do as much like that, but I think the bat flips are starting to get a little out of hand too, E. And a lot of the bat flips are a little unnecessary, and that's what's been causing a lot of fights because I've seen like 4 or 5 fights in the majors, and it hasn't even really been a whole month yet.
And see, the thing is, early on, yeah, it's usually not that quite so flippant in regards to the base brawls and what have you. But again, you have to understand other factors do tend to play into some of what goes on in regards to those things. You know, some cities and teams, they don't like each other, and those things carry on for years and years. We all know about those, obviously the Yankees and the Red Sox and the history behind them. But of course, in the National League, you had the Cubs and the Cardinals. They hate each other. Basically, have some beef over the years with San Diego and San Francisco and LA. So you got some of those rivalries as well. So yeah, some of that plays into it also. But in terms of what's going on baseball wise, I like what I'm seeing so far. The gameplay is going pretty good. I can't say that the pitchers or the hitters are basically dominating as they have in years in the past. It's pretty even so far. I mean, there is no one great team at this point, but you do have to look at the team that is the Oakland Athletics, who have won 11 in a row after basically starting their season 1-6. So, you know, that's kind of interesting that they are on that run, but it seems like Oakland always makes a run like that in the season. If you look back
at those guys out, man. You know me, since I've seen Moneyball, man, I never counted Oakland out, man. I really thought that was a good movie. If anybody's a baseball fan who never saw that movie, you need to check that out. That was a really good movie, how he dissected what they needed and what they didn't need. And it was just from their predictions of what they thought basically helped that team turn themselves around. And before you get to that comment, I found a guy's name. He had 40 strikes and no walks, and that's Mr. Corbin Burns, and he's from the Milwaukee Brewers, aka the Brew Crew.
Absolutely. Yep. So shout out to that guy. That's pretty impressive stuff there. H2, I asked too many questions. I enjoyed the show. Basically, H2 about to dip out on us because the remix with your boy Derek is coming up at 10:30. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, H2. I do believe that to be the case. In the meanwhile, we are here on Gametime Audible talking sports this evening. Right now, it is 10:09, so we are going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, it's on my guy Hugh again to set the tempo and talk about what he wants to bring up next sports-wide. We will have that after we come back from this commercial break. Shout out to that dude, David Ford. Haven't checked in with him much lately, but hopefully he's still doing his thing and selling the product, and it's going well. And we will be back after we see that there. Here we go.
Come on now. Okay, black on. Get into it. Black on. Look at that David Ford right there. That's his thing. Black on. He don't know Tom. Look at that David Ford. That's his name. He don't know Tom. Yeah. Yes. Oh, here we go. Oh, I can see the demons. I can't see the demons, but I can see the light.
We are creating black luxury across this country.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? We are back. This is Game Time Audible. I am your boy Eric Buckner, and that is, of course, the sports guru there, Hugh Lee. We are coming back to have some more sports discussion with you. Rhoda saying, "Hey Eric, just finished my show and came to support. Thanks, Rhoda. I appreciate that. Oh, love. Okay, and shout out to you guys, Mahaj. I see you back in the building here, over here on Bigo. Okay, so Hugh, it's on you again, sir. What do you have to discuss next?
We haven't talked football in a while, and one reason why I want to kind of bring that to the forefront, and I know, man, it's getting close, man. That's one thing to make NFL so dominant, man. Even when it's the off season, they still have legit things to talk about. Not only are coming up soon, we're going to talk about the release date for the teams to face each other. They're going to have all the different NFL games from week 1 to 17, but at the same time, we're glorying and we're getting close to the NFL draft that will be here Thursday, prime time.
All right, so we got the NFL draft coming up. Let's talk about it, Hugh. What's some of the things you're looking at in terms of the draft?
I'm looking to see what's going to happen as far as some of the trades. I know right now we've been hearing rumors that the Jets were saying they were listening. You got the Eagles that said they were listening. The Dolphins are listening. If anybody wants to move up, and most of the picks we feel like 1 through 5 is going to mostly come up as the quarterbacks. So yeah, I definitely want to see who's going to take that leap of faith to get their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, so it seems not so much people looking to come up so much as it seems like now that we've made the moves that we've made in regards to recent trades and whatnot for people moving up to get their quarterback. And now that the talk now seems to be about those teams that's in that next tier, that 6 to 10 range, and them moving down to get additional picks to build up their rosters. Because of course, if you're in the top 10 in the NFL draft, unless there's a trade involved, more than likely it's because last year your team sucked. It sucked bad. And it's the kind of suck to where even if you get that marquee player at number 5, 6, 7, 8, you're still not going to be a good team. So it's probably in your better interest to acquire more picks so you can bolster up your roster and get better quicker. So that is what teams are looking like. From my understanding, the Lions, our team in Detroit, who's picking 7th, they are looking to possibly move down or make some type of trade so they can require other picks so they can bolster the roster. Because as you know, we are definitely in a rebuild here in Detroit, so that would definitely make sense. And we already have our quote-unquote franchise quarterback in young Jared Goff, a former #1 pick. So we definitely don't be looking to pick a quarterback at this point. But there's other teams that will probably be looking to do so, particularly if we are wrong about our assumption that the first 5 picks will be quarterbacks. And a couple of those teams basically changed their mind to take the top lineman or top wide receiver, for instance. So that then now those players become available, and at number 7, it becomes very much a very good pick to have at that point.
Yeah, because they could get a strong pick on there, man. They could possibly get one of the best offensive linemen in, the draft, or they can go after the best linebacker in the draft, or one of the top receivers. I know when I looked at for all the guys who are interested in looking at the draft, or if they're not to the point where they're comfortable predicting who's going to be one of the best draft picks, or from the top 1 through 32, I would suggest y'all, and it's a good site to look at too. I look at it every day, actually, since it's getting closer to the draft. On walkerfootball.com, they show you the best picks, or if they think it's going to be trades. They got the NFL, they got the NBA and the MLB as far as their drafts, the top prospects. They even have the draft set up right now for the 2022 draft as well. So yeah, that's a good information to look at. But I still feel like they have us getting the kid from LSU, Jamar Chase. They felt like since we lost Galladay and we lost Marvin Jones, that might be something we'll look forward to, getting some more weapons. I don't got no beef with Perriman. I thought that he was a good pickup, and I definitely thought that Terrell Williams didn't get as good of a chance with the Raiders. I thought that he shined and he excelled way past expectations when he was with the Chargers. that was a really good low key pick for us too. But I still feel like if he's the player that comes up at 7, and he's the best player on the board between either him or Devontae Smith, because I ain't gonna count him out. I think he's the best receiver. Maybe I'm a little biased, but at the same time, whoever lands at that 7th spot, if it's the best receiver in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if the Detroit Lions go after him, because I don't think that the Perryman and Tyrell Williams contract signings they had was more than a year.
And see, here's the thing: in terms of the Lions, unless for some crazy reason they would pick a quarterback at number 7, pretty much anything that they pick beyond quarterback or probably tight end, because we don't really need that either, would make sense. Because again, we are in a rebuild, and there are several positions that are going to need to be filled at that point. But here's the thing, Hugh. Keep in mind, in terms of the actual football talk and draft talk, we're not getting as much as we normally would. And I do think a lot of that comes from the fact that there was no combine and that we had the pro days, but they only featured certain people. So I'm really interested to see what the analyst is in terms of some of the later rounds in the draft, because normally we hear about those sleeper picks and things like that. We're not getting so much of that talk this year because of the pandemic and how everything was ran in regards to the draft evaluation. What do you think about that?
You're absolutely right. I'm gonna definitely look in on some of those guys too, who are the sleeper picks, man, because I'm definitely interested in some of them guys. Like last year, we heard about some of the guys like the Jalen Rager, who ended up being with the Philadelphia Eagles. And you heard about some of those explosive guys that went on teams who we wasn't too familiar with. The guy from ASU, was this I forgot his name, but it's Ayuk, the guy who was on the San Francisco 49ers, who had a really good year. It's a lot of guys that came up from that draft who were sleeper picks and people didn't really look at. It was under the radar, who really came in to shine. And I definitely enjoy seeing that. But you're right. Most of the smaller teams haven't really got any like big, publicity or anything. You got your Trey Lances, you have of course, the number 1 pick of all, Trevor Lawrence. You have Justin Fields, and you have all those guys having huge, pro days. But I'm definitely interested. I'm gonna do a lot more research too on some of the up and coming guys who a lot of people may have slept on, because, like you said, before one of our last, I think it was last week, that was a really intelligent situation you brought up too, and it's something that made me want to look into more of the guys who are in the later rounds. Then when you go to some of these schools, you're looking for the big name guys, but then you'll look and you'll see another guy like, hey man, who is that offensive lineman? He hasn't really been getting as much publicity, but he's really making them work hard, and they're not getting to him. You got, like your Chase Young, but you're looking at the guard that he's taking. It might have been a second string guard because of injuries or COVID. And you're like, well, this guy's explosive, man. He's strong. He's not letting him get to the quarterback, man. He might not be a first round pick, but he's a guy I'll look forward to in the second and third round. And that can help out teams too, man, because I've seen that just recently. Was with Michael Onwenu, the guy from Michigan. A lot of people, he was going to be as good as he was. That was the reason why I think New England let Joe Tunney walk. And I was like, damn, Michael Onwenu was like one of the top 3 guys at the offensive line position. And at first I was like, they're going to pay Joe Tunney. They're going to take care of him in New England. Hell, they've been taking care of everybody else who ain't even on the team or who wasn't even on the team before. But yet to actually let Joe Tunney leave and go to Kansas City, I didn't think they was going to pay that chunk of money to him, the $80 million. But to have a guy who's in the wing right now waiting, Michael Onwenu, man, please, if you get a chance, look at him, man, because that guy's explosive. And I feel like, I don't know, they should have let Joe Tunney go, but at that price tag, I understand why. Because the way Michael Onwenu played, he played way past expectations. And he was one of the guys from Michigan that nobody really gave credit to and nobody really talked about. I think they got him at like the 5th, 6th round.
And keep in mind, in terms of the evaluations of the players, it's going to be different this year. Remember, first of all, because of COVID consideration, didn't get the the senior games and all those types of games that you would help to evaluate to the extent that we normally do. We already know that there was no combine. A lot of the pro days, even they were scaled back due to COVID. Now, of course, you have the draft, which will be virtual yet again. So, in terms of evaluating people just on seeing them up close and whatnot, a lot of that will be done. And then, of course, we all know the situation with the OTAs and how a lot of teams are opting out of doing OTAs this season, at least in terms of meeting up because of COVID considerations and the fact that that's a lot of extra work they'd rather not do. They see that there was a successful model last year in regards to doing a lot of your OTA work from home or in your own facilities and whatnot. And they kind of like that. And I think that's something they're going to push for in the future. Also, keep in mind that once we start to have training camps, it will be shortened training camps. And not to mention the fact that we do not have 4 preseason games anymore. We now only have 3. And based on how those things usually go, the one preseason game will probably be a throwaway game to where you're not going to evaluate too much outside of the fringe players. So in terms of the evaluations of who should make the team and whatnot, that will be changed. But also you have to remember, because of COVID considerations, the rosters will be expanded once again. So some players that normally probably would not make an NFL squad may do so based upon that.
Yeah, I think they even gonna booster up. They're gonna bolster up the practice squads again, because remember they also have like 10 players, and they both boosted up a little bit more. I think they're gonna have at least close to 20 players on a practice squad, man, and that'll help evaluate some of the players too. And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, about the less OTAs and less teams playing in OTAs and doing practice like that. I believe 4 more teams opted out and said they're not going to do it too as well. So that's just letting you know, man. Altogether, I think that's close to 15 teams. So with that many teams, I don't think it's going to be as many doing OTAs. You might still have some that want to go out and play and have that type of heat of the moment type of practices. But we've noticed even before the pandemic and all the things and the safety protocols was going on, that was one of the biggest issues. We'll be looking at OTAs and we'll look at the practices. We like, man, it'll be a big time player went out with an ACL tear and he's out the whole season. So I think also likely the veterans are not going to do that. Like you said, they know what they need to do. They know their playbook. They're going to go off into an isolated area. They already have Cam Newton in New England doing some of those. Usually Tom Brady will get his guys and his receivers, and he'll play with them, kind of warm up and get themselves together, sharpen, their swords and get themselves together for the season. But I don't really feel like, for the most part, it's going to really be necessary. Like you said, they're going to know, they know what they need to do. They don't need the coaches to really tell them much. And I just feel like from the wear and tear of the season and plus that extra game they're putting on them, a lot of the guys are going to just rest and get ready when they're ready on their terms.
I agree. I mean, in the end, like I said, the draft, I'm interested to see some of the setups. Remember, we just got done with the WNBA draft. And, of course, the daughter of the WNBA draft was the young lady whose mother and grandmother celebrated with her as she found out she was a member of the Liberty. So I'm wondering, because of that scenario, will we have some, basically dialogue celebrations? In other words, choreographed, playing, that type of stuff. Remember last year when we had the virtual draft, and you had the one guy who basically got drafted, his girlfriend wanted to come and be a part, and the mama was like, "No, this ain't your mama, boo. Don't sit over here." I wonder if some things like that will happen in this year's draft, but more or less will be staged to show up as in, okay, I want you to remember me. So yeah, I was the one who had on all the loud colors, and when they said I am the member of Pittsburgh Steelers, everybody got up and did a routine from Cats or whatever.
Man, that old lady got in on the WNBA, man. She was clowning. She did one of them African rituals. She was getting it, man. I was like, Granny got her time in the limelight. But yeah, man, it's gonna really be interesting, man. Remember CeeDee Lamb when he was on this, but he had 2 phones. I think his girlfriend tried to grab one of them. He just snatched it out of her hand, kind of looked up his head, and I was like, man, they shouldn't even be doing all that on TV. But he let her know, like, hey, this my phone. Don't got nothing to do with you. I pay for this. Whoever on there is my business. You leave it be. For the most part, she sat down and got quiet because when the money started rolling in, you already know she either gonna get in where she fit in, or she gonna be on the outside looking in. Hey, pick your poison.
But you already know how some of these ladies looking at it like, okay, I got to make it known to the national TV audience that, yeah, I'm Louis Dude. So when you come thotting around later on because you see he was the number 3 pick, let it be known that, no, he got a woman, and I'm right here, and I'm taking care of him. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how some of them play that in terms of that, the crowd, their scenario, what type of little sets they may have set up and all of that. Because, that's something that you normally would not have in terms of the draft, because most of those players would be in one central location and would walk out and shake the commissioner's hand and all that. But because they're going to be at home virtually and whatnot, that does bring a little interesting flavor to the draft. And I would not mind if that would continue, at least in terms of particularly some of the later rounds, where basically you have to say like the top 20 people you think might be picked end up at the main stage, but everybody else got their own little satellite set up and what have you. That would be cool.
It's cool. I like seeing it like that, because I think that was the highest rated draft too, because a lot of us was at home looking for any type of sport or anything we could get into. It was just more comfortable. It was a more homey atmosphere, man. You seen Roger Goodell, he in his brown like butterscotch leather recliner eating his M&Ms, and you had Bill in this little cabin with his husky wolf dog, and it was just cool to see a lot of those guys at home. Oh man, remember Cliff Kingsbury, man? That dude's house looked phenomenal, man. I was like, dang, where he get that type of money from, man? He must have been, born into money, because you just don't get no house like that, being a college coach, then going to the pros.
Exactly.
Did you check out the Rams setup, man? Did you check out their little hookup that they're going to be doing their draft from?
No, I did not.
They got like a private party house or something like that. It looked phenomenal. I tell you what, they're trying to one-up Cliff Kingsbury. When I get a chance, I'm going to try to see in that setup too virtually, man. It looked amazing. I don't even think that I'd be concentrating with a setup like that, man. It's too much.
Yep, shout out to my guy Shaka checking in on the Bigo. What's going on, Shaka? Appreciate you, brother. Peace, nephew. Okay, yeah, here's the thing. We're going to shut it down shortly, but there is a couple topics I do want us to get into before we do that. One, my man Hugh was so kind to point out this thing that we talk about called the power rankings in regards to MLB and the NBA. I would like for you to touch on that very briefly there, Hugh. Go ahead.
Man, right now the power rankings as far as the MLB right now still has the Dodgers as the king of the throne, man, at 14-4. And then after them, you have the Boston Red Sox, man, who's 12-6, and then followed up by yours truly, man, the Oakland A's. What's up, B?
With all due respect, my brother, can you just stop now? Let's talk about this thing called the power rankings.
Oh yeah, I know you was upset, man, about something.
Okay, I heard you, bro, but it's BS. Okay, I'm not trying to hear about no power rankings, particularly early on, and nobody sees it. There is so many different factors that can take place between now and September, and we ain't even talking about COVID. I'm just talking about the regular stuff. Teams get hot, teams get injured, teams have people come up in the minors hitting like wildfire, and suddenly you bring them up and they have taken over. Okay, that mid-season prospect. There are pitchers now who are pitching like total crap, and they usually do because it's cold. But as soon as it get warm out, something go on in their arm and they start hitting 100 and with movement, and now they become an entirely different pitcher. That affects the doggone rankings. Remember, early on in the season, it is very rare that a team takes off and takes over. Usually these things do not take place until the middle of the season. So in terms of these power rankings, these weekly rankings of teams and players, I feel like it's total garbage. It's just talking points, something to make reference to. In the end, they do not matter to me. They do not matter to me because in the end, unless we are people like ourselves that talk sports every week, what purpose do they serve? For basic fan A, they're not sitting there like, oh, well, I definitely got to watch the Rangers. They third ranked this week. That must mean they doing something. Your basic person that is a sports enthusiast that checks out the occasional game here and there, they don't care about no damn rankings, Hugh.
Not really. And they did that all last year, man. How they'll say, and then it's a what have you done for me lately? Yeah, most times they're bandwagon fans, even the guys who are the analysts. One week you'll see, and they'll say, like, for instance, when the Pittsburgh Steelers went 11-0. Oh, they were the best team to give a threat to Kansas City. They lost to one game. Oh, man, I think they're not going to do anything. They're going to get bounced out. Then when they finally did lose to the Cleveland Browns, people was like, oh, they're not as good as a team as we thought they were. You went in
when the power rankings was all said and done last season, yeah, of course Kansas City was up there, but Tampa Bay wasn't even in the top 5. And guess what?
Tampa Bay wasn't even considered, man. What was they, like, top 8? They wasn't even in the top echelon. I think the top echelon when they talked about it was Kansas City. You had the Steelers, you had the Bills, and then so forth, But the Bills played like I thought they were going to play. The defense played well, but I just didn't think Josh Allen was ready for that type of stage. But surprisingly, I just didn't feel like a lot of the teams. So like you said, we seen the 9-7 New York Giants get high. All they needed was just that ticket to go to the actual wild card game to win. They're not the only team. I mean, I think the Giants went through the wild card round of the game and won twice.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh won in the wild card just recently. Tampa Bay, they wasn't the top ranked teams, and that's the thing with the power rankings. You can take it with a grain of salt. It's like you said, most of the teams who get hot at the right time and build the best chemistry are the teams that you'll see in the end.
Right, and like I said, and that goes not just for the NFL or MLB. That's any of these sports what they do these power rankings. Because remember, Hugh, they are subjective. I can see if they basically based it on a formula that they would put in, and based on that formula, that's who are the rankings. I mean, just like for example, take the Billboard charts. Those are based not on opinions, but on a ranking. They look at it in terms of, okay, what album is getting the most play out here in the record stations? What albums is getting the most streams? Based on that, that's how they determine, okay, this is the ranking this week of the top 10 songs. That is not the case in any of these other rankings. They are primarily based on opinions of whoever is doing the ranking. So that's why I only say to a certain extent they matter to those people that need to have talking points because they get paid to do this. But in terms of basic fan A and even, extra fan A, we don't care about none of that mess, man.
Because remember when I sent you that power ranking in the NBA, Philly was number 1, and then it was Utah Jazz, then they had Phoenix.
And bottom line, you know how the East and the West is set up. There should not be any East Coast teams in the top 5 because they play different sets of basketball. In the end, the East and the West have been the same for pretty much the last 10 years. The West is basically from top to bottom filled with teams that are very competitive. Meanwhile, in the East, there are those 4 or 5 good teams, and everybody else just there, man.
Because we're going to have some teams make it, I believe, into like the playoffs is below, like 20 games below 500. It happens every year.
That is why if you look at the last 7-8 seasons in the NBA, you see the same teams pretty much make the playoffs. The same teams pretty much make the finals. How many years did we have to endure Cleveland versus Golden State? We already know more than likely we can sit here tonight and kill the season, and we know more than likely these 6 teams will be one of the teams in the finals. The Lakers, the Clippers, Denver, on the East, the 76ers, or the Nets, and pick one. It's going to be one of them two in the East.
So you can throw in the Celtics.
Right. Okay, let's say argument Celtics. And in the end, we know how that's going to play out. More than likely, the West team is going to be the team that wins the championship.
Pretty much.
Even though they're going to have the harder road to get to the finals because the teams that they're going to play are going to be far more competitive than the teams in the East. All that being said, the rankings don't serve no great purpose that way. And in terms of the NHL, the way it's set up right now, where most of the teams are just playing teams in the division, what sense does the rankings make at all when it's not based on you playing all the teams you possibly could play? And no sense even have no rankings in the NHL right now.
True. Yeah, you're right about that, man. I just think they do it just to have something to talk about or have discussions around the round table. But I just still feel like you said, when it comes to the Sixers, I feel like they're going to be either the Sixers or the Nets come out the East. I didn't forget Milwaukee when I said you could throw the Celtics in. They do have Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez. Drew Holiday was a hell of a addition. I just don't see enough from Antetokounmpo, man. When he needs to step up, I just don't see it, man. It's like he's a deer in the headlights. There's no way with that talent that they supposed to have lost to Miami last year, but they figured
playoff soft. Period.
They get somebody to double team him or put the really good defense on him and play him like, because they were on him, man. They stayed on him like a glove. They double teamed him, and he didn't figure it out. He was still trying to make plays. He was trying to do too much when he don't have that type of game. And there's no disrespect to him. He can't shoot a three-pointer. He's not really that great on the perimeter. All he really does is get close to the rim and dunk.
With the
problem.
The occasional mid-range jumper that he might hit. And keep in mind, he's usually pretty streaky with that. So
very streaky. And he's guys like him trying to shoot three-pointers, man. And I just don't know, man. I think Drew Holiday was a hell of an asset, to go over there. But I still don't think they have enough, man. And it all starts with him.
Like I said, I think it's basically the 76ers or the Nets in the East, and one of them 3 or 4 in the West. I don't think anything is really a consideration at this point. We'll see what happens. But okay, bottom line, Hugh, we ain't talking about these damn rankings no more, man. They bullshit, okay?
Yeah, we can let that roll.
Be no more rankings talks here on the chat. We'll say that for the big boys to talk about and have some discussion about. Right here, so hopefully we killed that noise. But okay, before we go, I do want to have one more discussion because, of course, we will be remiss not to mention the fact that yesterday we had a very serious thing happen in our country in regards to reform and justice. We all know now that the George Floyd trial ended with a guilty verdict for that guy whose name I do not mention because he is a murderous piece of crap as far as I'm concerned, and I will not highlight him in my talk. But nonetheless, what I would like to say in regards to that is that justice is served for the time being. Let's stay tuned on that. But in terms of how the athletes have spoken out in regards to what happened yesterday, I'm very proud of those young men. Remember, a lot of our athletes in all the major sports are younger than myself and you. They are in their mid to late 20s, most of them. And it is very good to see that many of them appear to be what we would call woke. What do you think, Hugh?
I think that it was good that a lot of those guys, man, really fought and said that we're not going to stand up for this. A lot of the guys didn't want to play. They didn't play. They stood up for what they believed in. They're sick of all that when people say, just shut up and play basketball or football, a la, the orange man. We ain't even going to mention him because he's going to need to mention it's a waste of our time and a waste of air. But to have those guys stand up to the forefront, man, and say enough is enough, because a lot of those guys are black athletes. Jaylen Brown even discussed, I'm a black man before I am any athlete or anything in the sport today. I could just go out there and I am a professional athlete and have a mask on and just walking or either jogging and doing anything and could still get stopped by police. And if they don't know who I am, my life can be on the line. So to say enough is enough and have that stand, and for not just the NBA, the MLB, and NFL, for all those, not just black players, but white athletes as well, stood up to the forefront. And that made me proud because I feel like more or less, shouts out to Aaron Rodgers because he was one of the first white players that said, hey, man, we can't just talk about it and say how, we are so sad and we don't like the way things are going and what happened. We need to make a change, and it starts with us. We need to, fight with our black counterparts, man. We need to fight with the black athletes who's already going through these struggles, and we need to make a stand. Their voices are heard, but when we put both of our voices together, it's a stronger and it's a better platform. And when he said that, and you start seeing like the Baker Mayfields, the Travis Kelce's, and Tannehills, it was good to see that, man, because for once, a huge name football player who was white happened to say, man, enough is enough. And it was disgusting. It was a heinous act, and we all need to unite now versus, us just sitting back and not saying nothing. And, the black athletes saying what they say and have their discussions. We as football brothers need to stand up and put an end to this. That was huge. And that really sparked a huge impact in the NFL. But for the most part, we know the black athletes in the NBA gonna stand for that anyway. But to see the Kevin Loves and the guys like that who stuck their neck out, man, and who had some words to say, it was just cool. It's a beautiful feeling, man, because we always talk about it and say how the black athletes stand up and how they made their voices heard. Man, it's a lot of white athletes been out there doing good for the cause as well, man. So shouts out to them to actually put in their voices and putting their statute up and saying we can give a damn less about how you feel. If you want to not like us, bash us or say anything, because you feel like we're not doing what we're supposed to do as athletes. We don't care about losing a few fans here and there. We just want to get our word out and do it for the better cause.
Yeah, because in the end, I think the athletes represent the country in terms of the majority of us feel that way, that justice was served yesterday and more needs to be done in regards to that, not just in terms of America, but police reform in general. So that is why I am proud of those young men and women who spoke out. I definitely want to point out people like Naomi Osaka, the tennis player from Japan, who happens to be, part African American, and some of the stands and things she said in terms of using her platform to speak out on such things. I am very proud of that young lady in regards to that. She is not only a champion, but she is also a very good spokesperson for the sport in that regard. So I like that. Like I said, in terms of what may happen in the future, yes, I would like to definitely see more of our athletes take a stand in regards to some of these issues, because in the end, they set a good role model. Remember, a lot of these athletes are team athletes. They have grown up playing with some of these people that they play with now for years and years in rec leagues and Nike leagues and travel leagues and all of that. So these people have become more than just the people that they work with. They are their friends. They are their loved ones. They spend lots of time together. So, of course, they're going to care about what their black counterpart is going through in regards to criminal acts and things of that nature. They may have actually been witness to it in some cases, where they may be riding home one night and they get stopped by the police for things. Remember, for all the stories we do know in regards to what has happened because of camera phones and things of that nature, there's also those many stories that we as people of color can attest to happen every single day that nobody knows anything about. So, yeah, it is good to keep shedding a light on these things, and I hope that they continue to use their platform to highlight these things and their thoughts and opinions in regards to that. And don't listen to the people that would just have them shut up and dribble, so to speak.
Especially the WNBA, man. If anybody's voices was heard, nobody's voices or impact was more stronger than the women. The women took the forefront. I love the NBA and the NFL, but I still feel like if the voices was heard and the voices was really out there impacting our country as athletes, the WNBA players pushed it forward more than anybody. Black, white, people from foreign countries who's in the WNBA, they all stood up. They took their stand the whole season and they stood by it. And that's the type of unity that I like to see, man. So I would be, I wouldn't even be a man of my word today if I didn't give shouts out and, show my love and respect to the WNBA for what they did, because I think they made a bigger impact than any other sport.
I agree. And Rode is agreeing as well. Rose says you are right. So yeah, that being said, y'all, that is what I have to talk about today in terms of the show. We about to wrap it up on up right now. Thank all of you who have tuned in. Thank the few of you who have joined in the comments. We appreciate you always. Okay, before we go, of course, we have to talk about the other shows here in the Nighthawk Network. We actually have the remix coming up with your boy Derek. That'll be coming up following this show here, if not starting right about now at 10:45. We have Monumental Moments in God's Word that you will be able to view tomorrow in the afternoon around 6 or so. No Weapon Formed Against Us, the new show on the Nighthawk Network. You'll be able to catch that tomorrow as well. On Friday through Sunday, you'll be able to catch Dish and Tea with Big Meech, Aunt Nikki, and Big Red. Shout out to those guys. There's the Let's Talk with Aunt Nikki interview series that will be coming back shortly to the network. Shout out to my guy Stan Mason, who joined me on the show last night. And Stan Mason's Behind the Blue Curtain. You'll be able to view Saturday 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also will be showing a repeat of one of the shows next Tuesday, as opposed to my usual Get Off My Lawn Live. So look forward to that. They talk about police reform and some of the things that happen in terms of the trial and what have you. So yeah, check that out. The Girl Stop podcast with my cousin Elena Miller and Letitia Williams Howard. You'll be able to catch the newest episode of that tomorrow. I'll be posting that. Pastor Sean Love presents. Shout out to Pastor Sean. And of course, we had to Get Off My Lawn After Dark edition that we'll be doing again sometime soon. And of course, we got Gametime Audible now. And of course, you have any comments or remarks or suggestions in regards to this show or any of the other shows, you may check in at this address. That's Night H Network, Night H Network 313@gmail.com. We also have a phone number that you'll be able to call. We will announce that number next week. So if you want to leave voice messages in regards to some of the content and some of the things you have seen, you may leave that. Actually, that number is available now. I will tell you that number is 1-248-275-6074. Again, that's 1-248-275-6074. That will be the Nighthawk Network, basically opinion line, we will call it. So we will set the mail up for that in the next 24 to 48 hours. And you can leave your opinions in regards to any of that as well. So that being said, friends, we're about to get out of here. Let me let my man Hugh Lee do his thing. You know what you need to talk about. You go and put it out there.
Y'all already know what time it is, man. Tune in to Pure to the Game whenever you want to get your sports fix. I'm on there Monday through Sunday, 24/7. And all I'm doing is giving you the best sport news that I possibly can give. Most times I'll put it out there before some of the bigger platforms, the ESPNs and Bleacher Reports. I'll be on there most times, man. Just throw me a comment. Let me know what you want to hear or if you want to hear about different sports. But most times when there's some good news, anything that you want to hear, man, I'm out there and I'm putting in work. So whenever you want, man, and you want to get your sports fix and you don't have the time to look at an ESPN or anything, man, just tune into your Facebook, put in Pure to the Game, man. And for the most part, I have it out there already. So, yeah, check me out, man.
All right, so that being said, we're about to call it a show, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for all of you guys who support. Thanks to all you guys who will view the show later and give your opinions and comments. We will still see them, so feel free to do so. And we will catch you guys next time this week on Wednesday to talk some more sports with you. Until then, I am me. And who are you?
Hugh the Sports Guru.
And who am I again?
E-Buck, Tainted Iced T.E.
And what show was this?
Gametime Audible.
Yeah, that's right, y'all. And guess what? This is the end of it. Bye, y'all.
Peace.
Gametime Audible is a Nighthawk network.